In congressional news, Republicans.
Welcome to On Point with Politics. I'm Kimberly Keggy. We begin this evening in our campus news. The announcement of the 2019-2020 United Student Government presidential candidates. Current Vice President Brittany Arp and School Communications Senator Jake Berlin are running for president. There are two candidates for Vice President, Sophie Burkholder and Alexa Lake. Monet Finley has recently been deemed ineligible due to a doubt in Finley's fulfillment of the vice presidential qualifications to run. Voting for USG elections will open March 25th. And according to a United Student Government constituent, the United Student Government is considering the election period to only be for Thursday and Friday, following the Meet the Candidate event that's scheduled for Wednesday night. This comes after there is a lack of transparency and trust in coverage of presidential and vice presidential candidates, according to our constituent. And with us this evening is USG Current School of Communication Senator Jake Berlin. Thanks, Jake, for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me, Kimberly.
So, Jake, I first want to ask you, what's been occurring lately in USG?
Well, right now, we just had a meeting today, and just a few hours ago, I was able to sponsor legislation which allows seniors to vote in the upcoming election at Point Park, which is a huge deal because the past couple years, seniors have been boxed out of the elections process, and I think they are just as much a part of this community as any of the underclassmen.
Now, Jake, does that legislation extend to seniors who are graduating in the spring term, or does that extend to seniors who may start their first senior semester in the spring term of 2019 and are graduating in the fall of 2019?
Yeah, so the legislation specifically states that it will be extended to any member of the student body at the school, and that comes with the stipulation that they pay the activity fee upon arrival. So that will cover freshmen, sophomores, juniors, and seniors no matter when they're leaving, but may not include grad students depending on their payment of that activity fee.
And now, Jake, I'd like to transition towards your recently announced candidacy for president of USG. And I first want to ask you, why did you want to run for USG president?
Well, I think it's time that somebody is here to promote individuality on campus and specifically the rights of individuals. I want to protect the safety and security of our students and extend the hours of the security in every building for the entire day. I want to extend the hours of all services and facilities on campus, including the dining hall, because we can't predict when we're going to be hungry. The gymnasium, because we can't predict when we need to work out and relieve stress. The library, because we may need to do some last-minute studying, and especially the health center and the counseling center, because we can't predict when we're going to get sick, physically or mentally. I especially want to protect the rights of students and fight against sexual assault on campus. I want to include mandatory sexual assault response training in all City University Life classes that are already required for students. And finally, I want to put together a diversity and inclusion board with Latinx, BSU, Her Campus, Feminist Collective, LGBTQ+ representatives so they have a real seat at the table and actual representation in student government.
Now, Jake, do you have any thoughts on who you would want in your executive cabinet, since those play a big role?
I haven't given much thought to it yet. I'm just focusing on the election and hoping we can drive up voter turnout. But I do know that there are a lot of competent students within USG right now and also outside of USG. So I would be open to anyone who wants to come on board and make a difference to better the lives of the students.
Now, Jake, you mentioned voter turnout, and I know that at our school there is recently a population of about 3,000 students. In last year's election, there was only 66 students who voted. How do you believe that you can increase our voter turnout?
Right, so last year it was such a shame. We had less than 5% of the student body voting, and I don't think that's their fault. Quite frankly, I think it's USG's fault. The student government doesn't do a good enough job of communicating with the students and letting them know why this election is so important. They handle tens of thousands of dollars of student funds And even something that may seem as small as a presidential election has a big impact on all of the students on campus. So I'm trying to get the word out. I'm trying to talk to as many students as I can and creating this open dialogue where people can come to me with their concerns because I am out on campus, not stuck up in the USG office. You shouldn't have to come to the farthest building and the highest floor within that building just to voice your concerns. I will be out and present on campus and make sure we continue to fight for you.
Well, Jake, I just want to thank you again for being here, and I have one last question for you. What makes you different from your opponent, Brittany Arp?
I think on a personal level, I believe in open meetings. Vice President Arp and her executive cabinet have promoted closed meetings, locking the door for exec cab and not allowing the public to come into what has become a gossip circle. There are redacted minutes where these exec cab members are talking about other members of USG and other Point Park community members. I want to unredact the minutes. I want to open the meetings and make public what the students have a right to see and hear, and that is their student government.
Well, thanks again, Jake. I appreciate you being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
And it's never too early to start gearing up for the 2020 presidential election. According to Ballotpedia, 18 notable elected officials and public figures have entered the race. President Donald Trump filed for re-election on January 20th, 2017. There are 16 Democrats, including U.S. Senator Cory Booker, former U.S. Senator Representative from Maryland John Delaney, and U.S. Senator from Massachusetts Elizabeth Warren. And 2016 presidential election candidate Bernie Sanders announced his candidacy to run and is stepping into the court. As for Republicans, Bill Weld, the former governor of Massachusetts, and the Democratic National Convention will be held on July 13th through the 16th in 2020 in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. The Republican National Convention is scheduled to take place on August 24th through the 27th in Charlotte, North Carolina in 2020. Here at On Point with Politics, we'll be keeping a close eye on the presidential election and will inform you once we have the latest details. And when we come back, we'll take a look at our state news.
What's one word to describe CAB?
Welcoming.
Community.
Creative.
Experiences.
Family. Openness.
Pineapple.
The Campus Activities Board is a student-run organization that consists of 7 different committees. Each focuses on event planning, marketing, and administrative activities. Join us in organizing the juiciest events on campus, from late-night bingo to festive dances to our team bonding meetings. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Point Park Cap, or like us on Facebook at Campus Activities Board at Point Park University.
Good evening and welcome to Newsnight. I'm Josh Troop alongside Jess Paterchak.
Defending his decision to kick out 15 Cuban diplomats from the United States.
Thanks, Allison. Fitness on Demand has returned to Point Park.
Residents fear that Mount Agung will have a repeat of 1963's eruption.
2-star NFL quarterbacks made the headlines this week after wrapping up.
Well, thank you so much for joining us this evening. That's your news tonight. For Nick Tomarello, I'm Alex Grubbs. Have a great night.
And welcome back. Before we take a look at our state news, we'll take a look at national news first. According to CNN, First Lady Melania Trump has announced she will add another component to her Be Best program, which showcases multiple government agencies and their interaction with youth in hopes of improving the overall experience. She plans to show the youth-centric positions of agencies including the State Department, Transportation Department, Department of Labor, and Endowment for the Arts. The First Lady's Be Best initiative includes 3 focuses on health and well-being of children, social media kindness and safety, and assisting families impacted by the opioid crisis. Mrs. Trump has faced large accounts of criticism with her cyberbullying initiative amidst her husband's behavior. Mrs. Trump said, quote, "Sometimes you need to fight back. I'm sorry. Do what is right for the next generation so they can be respectful and kind," end quote. And in our state news, with a quest to make the next generation tobacco-free, PA considers raising the legal age to buy tobacco to 21. The legal Pennsylvania age is now 18. State Senator Mario Scalvia is looking at proposing to make it illegal to sell all forms of tobacco products to anyone under the age of 21. This comes as the Federal Food and Drug Administration this week proposed new rules to crack down on the sale of flavored e-cigarettes that are enticing to minors, threatening to pull the products off the market if companies don't comply. Already 7 states have passed these so-called Tobacco 21 laws that are similar to the one that Scalvio was proposing to put tobacco on par with legal sales age for alcohol. Virginia became the latest last month to join California, New Jersey, Oregon, Hawaii, Maine, and Massachusetts. Mario has seen the Institute of Medicine research that suggests that raising the age nationally to 21 would save more than 223,000 lives from smoking-related deaths. Scalvio credits a group of teenagers who visited him 2 years ago with enticing him to support raising the legal tobacco age. The idea is drawing a positive reception from Governor Tom Wolf and perhaps surprisingly the tobacco industry itself. And freshman lawmakers leading the charge of a government reform effort to let voters decide whether to bring an end to politicians making a career out of serving in the Pennsylvania legislature. Representative Andrew Lewis, Republican from Dauphin County, is proposing a constitutional amendment that would limit lawmakers to serving in their elective office for no more than 12 consecutive years. He was joined by 6 of the 14 lawmakers supporting the proposal. Many of those who showed up are only in their first or second term, and several, including Lewis, replaced lawmakers who held their office for decades. Lewis explained his phase and proposal would limit senators to no more than 3 4-year terms and representatives to no more than 6 2-year terms. The 12-year clock for sitting lawmakers would only start once the amendment was ratified by a majority of voters. It allows the term-limited lawmaker to run for their former seat again after sitting out of a term. It also wouldn't bar them from immediately seeking another elective legislative office after their 12 years is up. 15 states imposed term limits on their state legislators, and a proposed constitutional amendment seeks to add Pennsylvania to that list. Thanks for joining us on Point with Politics this evening. I'm Kimberly Keggy. We hope you stay on point with your politics.